Okay, this is now the Visual Tarot Part 3. And this is just a quick introduction to tell you what we're going to do today. And mainly it's going to be a screencast where I give some more information about, it's actually going to be major trumps in the Rider deck. And I've already added the illustrations in WriteNote. And if you're new to this, WriteNote is the program we're using, but you can use Evernote or any kind of note-keeping application. But I like WriteNote because it gives you siblings and children and grandchildren and so on, as you'll see in the screencast coming up. And it's going to be about numbers. And I'm thinking as well that what I'll do in the past, if you know the 5-minute tarot, I would maybe cover like 15 points, a number of points in the same video. But I'm going to try and keep it simpler this time and maybe deal with one point at a time in each video. And as I was wandering back to here from pushing the record button on the camera, I was thinking it might be useful next time to talk about why I'm calling it the Visual Tarot. And it has to do with this fellow I came across, Robert Horn, who writes about visual language and maps and so on, and illustrations to show how things work. But then it occurred to me at the time, think about a major trump or a card as a map, which is quite interesting. It's a map, it's not a meaning. It doesn't mean anything. It's a map to help the questioner get from point A to point B, or to get the questioner from being in difficulty or wondering what to do to a solution, or to having a path to travel. So that's why I'm calling it the Visual Tarot. And maybe next time in part 4, I'll talk about the Visual Tarot as an idea. But I also want to get to a comment that Merrill left about playing God in answering people's questions, like, am I going to have children? And you tell them no. You know, are you playing God and deciding that the person isn't going to have children? There's a whole discussion around that, which I think we'll get to soon. So I think it's going to be in part 5, I think. But here is now part 3, and it's about major trumps. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in a couple of days. Bye-bye. Okay, this is now the Visual Tarot part 3. And in this video, what I want to do is look a bit more at some numbers. And this is slightly different from before because I added illustrations for these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. But I want to look at this one here called 78 cards, because we know that 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 and so on. If you add up to 12, 1 plus 2 plus 3, going up to 12, that gives us 78. But I wanted to look at some of the lower numbers first. So we've got, if I could just remove that, 1 plus 2 equals 3. And then 3 plus 3 equals 6. And I know 6 is 2 and 4 and 1 and 5 and so on. But I wanted to look at the numbers that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and so on. Right, and so the thing is that 6 is also the lovers. So 3 plus equals 6. So I want to just hold off for that for the moment, because 6 plus 4 equals 10. So we have the lovers plus the Emperor equals the Wheel of Fortune. And that's where I wanted to stop for the moment and consider what that means. So we've got the lovers, and so we can look at the picture. There's the lovers plus the Emperor equals the Wheel of Fortune. And so I'm suggesting that we spend some time, or we come back to this now and again and think about what it might mean. So it could be that the lovers can represent somebody at crossroads. And you're at crossroads. It's important to make up your mind. So if you're represented by the lovers, if you incorporate or add in or act as if you were the emperor, so the lovers plus the emperor, that gives you number 10, the Wheel of Fortune. And it's maybe if you're undecided or at crossroads from the number 6, and you add a little bit of decisiveness from the emperor, because the emperor runs an empire and he's got all sorts of decisions to make, but he knows what he's doing. Or if he doesn't know what he's doing, he gives a good impression of it. And he does things and he is decisive. And if you act like the emperor when you're represented by the lovers, then the answer is the Wheel of Fortune. Maybe what happens is you get to control life, because the Wheel of Fortune can represent life with a capital L. So the lovers plus the emperor equals the Wheel of Fortune. You can take a look at these 3 cards together and get an idea of what they might mean. But the important thing is that we're not doing this so that we've got things to say to people. We may understand things or come up with a story or an idea that we never mention to anybody. You can read cards for 50 years and you maybe never talk about what you discover in your periods of study or in your quiet moments about the lovers plus the emperor equals the Wheel of Fortune. And it's a bit like, the reason for doing this is not so you have something to say or so that you know more, but so that when you see the lovers and or the emperor, or when you're dealing with the Wheel of Fortune, you automatically speak correctly and wisely about the cards. And I was trying to think of what to say about this, and there's a mechanic that I know. His name is Dave, and he's been fixing cars for years and years. And if you go to him with a car and it's not working properly, he looks at it and maybe he turns on the engine and he listens for a moment and then he tells you what's wrong with it. He's got so much experience that or if you've been driving and something went wrong, you tell him what wasn't working correctly or what went wrong or what happened. He knows instantly what the problem is. And it's not, and so other mechanics will have to run a series of tests and hook the car up to a computer, let's say, and run a diagnostic test, and it would run 20 tests, and then they would narrow down and give you the answer. Dave listens to the engine and knows what the problem is. And how does he do it? Because he knows. He can speak authoritatively. He can speak with authority because he's had the experience. And if you were to do this exercise for, let's say, the emperor, the emperor plus the lovers equals the Wheel of Fortune, and think about it and what you get out of it and what you might say and what kind of story it tells and what it makes you think about, you're going to be able to speak more automatically, or to speak automatically with wisdom about what cards are showing. Because after this, interestingly enough, 10 plus 5, we've already done 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we've got 10 plus 5 equals 15. So we've got the wheel plus the Hierophant equals the devil. So if you're in life and controlling life, let's say, from the Wheel of Fortune, and you add a little bit of the Hierophant, who can represent conventional religion, if we got to the Hierophant card here, there it is. You know, the Hierophant, who is ideally the person who teaches you about how to live well or how to live better. But the problem with 10 and 5, it gives you the devil, who represents restriction and confinement and maybe fear and the bad things, generally speaking, that we can say about the wheel, about life. So going back to 78 cards here, we've got the Wheel plus the Hierophant. Interest, you add a little bit of religion to life and you get the Devil. So is that telling us that normal conventional religions give you a version of life that doesn't allow you to be free, or that wants to tie you to what they believe? So if you're a free spirit and you want to make your own decisions, watch out for the Hierophant, or watch out for the Hierophant who is telling you about how to live or how to control the ups and downs of life, thinking of the idea of the wheel going round and round. So if you're on the outside of the wheel, you go up and down. So if you're dealing with the ups and downs of life and you turn to the Hierophant for advice, maybe watch out, or understand that, yes, he can give you good advice, but you're not going to be free as a result of what he tells you. So you maybe have to make sure that you retain a certain amount of freedom of movement, even if you're agreeing with what the Hierophant is telling you. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we've got 15 plus 6 equals 21. Oh, 14, 15. So we've got the Devil, VIL plus the Lovers, again, equals the World. What does that mean? Okay, that's it for today. So what do you think? What would you do with that? And again, I mentioned at the beginning about 10 can also be 8 and 2. But for the moment, maybe we should just deal with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as we're looking at numbers that are more than 9, use the numbers that we've already worked with, rather than coming up with other combinations. Because 9 can be 3 and 6, but it's also 3 plus 3 plus 3. So you can get more complicated, but I'm thinking let's keep it simple to begin with. What do you get when 1 and 2 equals 3? That the Magician plus the High Priestess equals the Empress. And then the Empress plus 3 equals the Lovers. And the Lovers has got a man and a woman in it, but 3 is the Empress and 3 is the Empress. So are we saying that with the Lovers, that the female partner, or the female part of the Lovers, is actually dominant, because 3 plus 3 equals 6. So the female, or the feminine, or the receptive side of the activity is the default, or has more power, or more ability, or we should expect more of the feminine with the Lovers than we should expect of the masculine. So again, that's something I hadn't thought of before I started doing this, and maybe it'll come back to me and I'll think about it, and maybe something will click one of these days, or maybe in 10 years something will click. But that's one of the reasons for making notes like this, to see what you discover. Okay, enough of me for today. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of days. Okay, bye-bye.